Anantam Shukrana Guruji for this beautiful, blissful, divine satsang and blessing us with this seva of listening as well as reading the Shivpuran. Let's begin with the synopsis of last week. Last week we read chapter 27 and 28 of KotiRudrasamhita of the volume 3 of the Shivpuran. In chapter 27, we read that the sages requested Sutta to narrate where did Ganga originate in form of water and what happened to the wicked sages who had tormented sage Gautama. So Sutta told them that Ganga actually originated from the Brahmagiri mountain from the Udambara tree. And as soon as sage Gautama saw that, he and his disciples took bath in that holy water and they celebrated it joyously. But as soon as the wicked sages came there, that Ganga vanished from there. And seeing this, sage Gautama rushed there and he eulogized Ganga and requested Ganga to wash the sins of those wicked sages. But Ganga in turn asked sage Gautama to tell the wicked sages to circumambulate the Brahmagiri mountain and also perform expiatory rites so that they can redeem their sins. And after that, that place became known as Gangadwara. Of course, sage Gautama was upset with the wicked sages and went ahead and cursed them that they would be excluded from the rites of Shiva, and also they gave up their residence in Kashi. In chapter 28, we read the story about the glory of phallic image Vedanatheshwara or Jyotirlinga Vedanatheshwara. Now in this, we read about the story of an arrogant demon named Ravana who propitiated Lord Shiva with his excellent devotion on the mountain Kailasha. But Lord Shiva was not delighted with him, so he performed even more excruciating penance to appease the Lord. Now he severed his heads one after the other, so he severed 9 of his heads, and when last head was remaining, that is when Lord Shiva was delighted with him. He not only reinstated those severed heads, he also granted him the boon that he desired, that was of unequaled strength. So after obtaining that, he also requested Lord Shiva to grant him a phallic image, although Lord Shiva did not want to give him that, but he forewarned Ravana that he would give him the image, but as soon as he would place that image on the ground, that phallic image would become stationary. So due to Shiva's Maya, when Ravana was carrying this thing to Lanka, in the middle of the way he felt uncontrolled urge of passing urine. So he had no choice but there was a cowherd there, so he handed over that phallic image to the cowherd and went to relieve himself. But when he did not return for an hour, this cowherd who was holding this heavy phallic image got tired and placed it on the ground. And ever since, that thing was known as phallic image of Vedanatheshwara or Jyotirlinga Vedanatheshwara, and it is one of the most excellent Jyotirlinga that not only yields all the desires, it grants salvation, it also expiates all our sins. Now Ravana of course went back and narrated everything to his wife, but the other gods, Indra and other gods, became dejected because Ravana had become very powerful, so they kind of sought refuge in Narada, and Narada promised them that he would help the gods. So he went to Ravana's abode and asked him how he obtained those excellent boons. So Ravana told Narada his excellent story of how he performed the penance to obtain the boon. Now Narada was of course trying to help the gods, so he kind of suggested to Ravana to lift up Kailasha if he wanted his boon to be fruitful. So on suggestion of Narada, Ravana went to Kailasha, lifted up the mountain, but this angered Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva cursed Ravana that his arrogance will be destroyed very soon. And of course, Ravana, because he was so arrogant he did not pay any heed, and he went back to Lanka. And this brings us to the end of synopsis. Today we will read chapter 29, which is the havoc of Rakshasas of Darukavana, and chapter 30, which is the greatness of Jyotirlinga Nageshwara. Today Aarti Aunty will be reading these chapters in English. We do not have Hindi reading. Please enjoy the readings, and if you're also interested in reading the Shivpuran, reach out to Seema Aunty or Rashmi Aunty or me, and we can arrange a reading for you. Jai Guruji, Shukrana Guruji.
गुरुजी को नमस्ते, सारी संगत को प्यार भरा जय गुरुजी। गुरुजी की असीम कृपा से आज मैं 2 चैप्टर्स पढ़ूंगी। पहले चैप्टर का शीर्षक है The Havoc of Rakshasas of Darukavana. Suta said, "Hereafter I shall explain how the extremely excellent Jyotirling, Nagesha of the Supreme Soul, came into being. There was a certain ogress, Daruka, who became arrogant by the boon granted by Parvati. Her husband Daruka was also very powerful. Along with many Rakshasas, he tormented the good, he destroyed their sacrifices and spoilt their rites. His fertile and flourishing forest was on the shores of the western ocean. It extended to 16 yojanas in every direction. Whenever Daruka went into the forest for her sport or pleasure, the land in that spot acquired all requisites and became full of trees. The goddess had entrusted Daruka with the supervision of that forest. She casually visited that forest along with her consort. Staying there, the Rakshasa Daruka and his wife Daruka terrorized the people. The harassed people sought refuge in Aurava. They paid homage to him with reverence, and with their head bent down with pleasure, they requested him thus. The people said, "O great sage, grant us the shelter. If not, we will be killed by the wicked Daruka. You are competent to do everything. You are brilliant with your splendor. There is none in the world except you in whom we can seek refuge, and staying near whom we can be happy. On seeing you, the Rakshasas run off. The splendor of Shiva always shines in you like fire." Suta said, thus requested by the people, the excellent sage Aurava, worthy of being resorted to, bewailed their lot and spoke these words for their protection. Aurava said, "If the Rakshasas torture living beings on earth, they will die themselves, although they are very powerful. Whenever the people are killed, let the Rakshasas too die. This is the truth, I say." Suta said, after promising to the subjects and consoling them, Aurava continued different types of penance, conferring happiness on the people. Realizing the cause for the curse, the god made attempts to fight with the demons with multifarious efforts, and holding all types of weapons, Indra and the other gods arrived there for the battle. On seeing them, the Rakshasas began to ponder. They consulted with one another. Rakshasas said, "What shall be done? Where shall we go? A difficult situation has come up. We are fighting and dying. They are fighting, but they are not killed. If this situation continues, what shall happen? A great misery has befallen us. Who can ward this off?" Suta said, thinking thus, and unable to find out a remedy, Daruka and his companions felt miserable indeed. On knowing that a great calamity had arrived, the demoness Daruka spoke of the boon granted by Parvati. Daruka said, "Propitiated by me formerly, the wife of Shiva had granted me a boon. You can go to the forest along with your people if you desire to go. That boon has been secured by me. How is this misery to be borne? Taking your people to the island, you can stay with the Rakshasas happily." Suta said, on hearing the words of Rakshashi, the Rakshasas were delighted. Getting rid of their fear, they spoke to one another. "She is blessed. She is fortunate. We have been saved by her. After bowing to her, they said respectfully, "If we can let us go, why ponder over it? O gentle lady, we shall go and stay there permanently in the waters." In the meantime, the people who had been tortured by the Rakshasas formally came there for fighting, accompanied by the gods. In their dilemma, the Rakshasas resorted to the boon granted by Parvati. They took their belongings to the city in the ocean. The demoness shouted cries of victory to the goddess and flew like the winged king of the mountains. She then stayed fearlessly in the middle of the ocean. The follower of Shiva, accompanied by her attendants, rejoiced much. Staying in the city inside the ocean, the sportive Rakshasas became happy and fearless. For the fear of the sage's curse, Rakshasas did not come on the earth. They moved about in the waters. They abducted travelers in the boats and imprisoned them in the city. They killed some of them. Staying there fearlessly, thanks to the boon granted by Parvati, the Rakshasas worked havoc as before. O great sages, the people had the terror in waters now incessantly in the manner they had fear on land before. Sometimes the Rakshasi came out of the city in the water and blocked the path to the land in order to harass the people. In the meantime, several beautiful boats arrived there full of people. On seeing those boats, the wicked Rakshasas were delighted as much. Rushing at the people on board, they bound them forcefully. The naughty Rakshasas came to the city, taking those people with them. They fettered them and put them in prisons. The people thus bound in fetters and imprisoned became very unhappy. They were rebuked again and again. Their leader was a certain Vaishya named Supriya. His conduct was auspicious and pleasing to Shiva. He was a permanent devotee of Shiva. He never remained without the worship of Shiva. In every respect, he followed the sacred rites of Shiva. Bhasma and Rudraksha were his ornaments. If on any day he could not worship Shiva, he did not take his food. The Vaishya performed the worship of Shiva there in the prison also. O excellent sages, he taught the mantra of Shiva and the mode of worshipping the earthen phallic image to several of his fellow prisoners. They performed the worship of Shiva duly in the manner they saw and heard. It yielded them their desires. Some of them stayed in meditation, taking up the excellent postures. Some of them joyously performed the mental worship of Shiva. O great sages, the direct worship of Shiva was performed by the leader then in accordance with the rites of worshipping the earthen phallic image. Those who did not know the great rite remained meditating on Shiva with the 5-syllabled mantra Namaha Shivaya. The leading Vaishya Supriya, a favorite of Shiva, performed the worship of Shiva by mental meditation. Shiva, in the form mentioned before, took up everything directly. The Vaishya was aware that his offerings were taken by Shiva. O great sages, even as the Vaishya continued to perform the worship of Shiva, 6 months passed by without hindrance. The event that happened thereafter, the story of the moon-crested Lord, O great sages, please listen to with attention. Moving on to chapter 30, it talks about the greatness of Jyotirling Nageshwara. Suta said, once an attendant of the wicked Rakshasa saw the beautiful form of Shiva in front of him. That wonderful incident was truthfully intimated to the king of Rakshasas. The king of Rakshasas, Daruka, though very powerful, was excited much. He hastened to Vaishya and asked him. Suta said, O Vaishya, what is it that you meditate upon? Tell me the truth. Then you will not die. My words cannot be otherwise. Shiva said. He replied, I do not know. On hearing it, the Rakshasa was very angry. He incited the Rakshasas, O Rakshasas, let him be killed. Urged by him, they seized various weapons and rushed at the leading Vaishya, whose mind was attached to Shiva with desire to kill him. On seeing them come, the Vaishya remembered Shiva with devotion and repeated his names, though his eyes indicated that he was extremely frightened. The leading Vaishya said, "O Shiva, save me. O Lord of gods, save me. O Shiva, save me now from the wicked Rakshasa. O Lord of the three worlds, O slayer of the wicked, O one favorably disposed towards his devotees, O Lord, you alone are my entire possession. I belong to you. I am subservient to you. O Lord, my very life is always in you." Suta said, thus implored, Shiva appeared out of the crevice with an excellent temple with 4 doors. Seeing in its midst the wonderful, brilliant form of Shiva, along with his attendants, he worshipped him. On being worshipped, Shiva became delighted. He gave him the Pashupata missile. He immediately slew all the Rakshasas with all their attendants and adjuncts. He saved his devotee. Indeed, Shiva is the slayer of the wicked. After killing all of them, Shiva, the creator of his oracles and who assumes bodies, in the course of sports granted a boon to the forest. May the rites and the activities of the 4 castes, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, flourish in this forest always. Let there never be people of tamasic qualities. Let there be excellent sages, the propounders and followers of the Shiva cult. In the meantime, the Rakshasi Daruka, dejected in her mind, eulogized Parvati. The goddess, being pleased, said, "What shall I do?" She replied, "Let my race be protected by you." "I shall protect your race. I say this truth to you." Saying this, the goddess quarreled with Shiva. On seeing the goddess furious, the Lord, bound by the boon granted by him, replied with pleasure, "Do as you please." On hearing the words of her husband Shiva, the delighted Parvati laughed and spoke these words. Parvati said, "Your words will be true at the end of this yuga. Till then, I think there can be tamasic creations as well. Otherwise, the disillusion will take place. Even now, O Shiva, let the words uttered by me be proved true. O Lord, I belong to you. I depend on you. This Rakshasi Daruka is my own Shakti. She is the most powerful amongst the Rakshasis. Let her rule over the kingdom of the Rakshasas. These wives of the Rakshasas will give birth to sons. I have permitted all of them to live jointly in the forest." Suta said, on hearing these words of Parvati, Lord Shiva was delighted in his mind and spoke these words. Shiva said, "O beloved, if you say so, please listen to my words. I will stay in this forest with the pleasure of protecting the devotees. He who maintains the discipline of rites and activities prescribed for different castes and has a sight of me with pleasure here will become an emperor. Or, at the end of the recurring cycle of Kali, or in the beginning of Krita age, the leading king, equipped with a vast army, famous in the name of Virsena, son of Mahasena, will have a sight of me. He will be a very valorous devotee of mine. After viewing me, he will become an emperor." Suta said, exchanging pleasantries thus the couple, O Brahmins indulging in great sports, remained there. The Jyotirling form of Shiva came to be known as Nageshwara. Goddess Shiva became Nageshwari. Both of them are favorites of the devotees. The sages said, O intelligent one, how will Virasena go to Daruka, Vana, and worship Shiva? Please narrate it. Suta said, Virasena, son of Mahasena, was a great favorite of Shiva. He was born of a Kshatriya family in the beautiful land of Nisad. Worshipping the earthen image of the Lord, Virasena performed a severe penance lasting for 12 years. Then Shiva, the delighted Lord of gods, became visible to him and said, Make a fish-like canoe of wood, coat it with tin and other metals. O Virasena, I shall create Yogamaya and give it to you. Enter the canoe accompanied by Yogamaya, and your men proceed to the island in the western ocean. Enter the crevice made by me, perform the worship of Nageshwara. Thereafter secure the missile Pashupata and slay the Rakshashi and others when I appear before you, you will not remain deficient in anything. Parvati's strength will grow to be complete. The lechas of the forest will become pious and auspicious after saying this to Virasana and bestowing his mercy on everyone. Lord Shiva, the destroyer of miseries, vanished there itself. Having received the boon from Shiva, the Supreme Soul Virasana became competent to do everything, of course. This is the manifestation of Nageshwara, the Lord in the form of Jyotirling, conferring the attainment of desires to the three worlds. He who listens to the origin of Nagesha respectfully attains all desires, he becomes intelligent, and all his sins are destroyed. Om Namah Shivaya, Shivji Sada Sahai. Om Namah Shivaya, Guruji Sada Sahai. Guruji, अगर मुझसे कोई भूल हो गई हो तो मैं क्षमा प्रार्थी हूँ, संगत जी आपसे भी. And I do want to say that as we are reading about Jyotirlings, Guruji had himself said कि बड़े मंदिर में 12 ज्योतिर्लिंगों की मैं ताकत डाल के जा रहा हूँ. And that's why Guruji would often say Shivpuran padho, so that we learn to appreciate our Guru a little bit more. Jai Guruji, Shukrana Guruji.